The city was still half asleep when Evelyn Allen stirred awake. The clock on her nightstand glowed 4:32 a.m. The air in the cramped Brooklyn apartment was cold, but she moved quietly, careful not to wake her younger brother, Caleb, who lay sleeping in the next room, his chest rising and falling with a fragile rhythm. She tiptoed to his bedside, adjusting the thin blanket around his small frame. His 4-bag hung from a makeshift stand, a symbol of the battle he was fighting every day. The faint sound of the city traffic outside mixed with the hum of the oxygen concentrator. Evelyn smiled softly, brushing a stray curl from his forehead. "You're my reason," she whispered. "Just hang in there, okay?" She packed her cleaning uniform, slipped into her worn sneakers, and left the apartment quietly, stepping into a world that never seemed to notice her existence. By 6 a.m., she was inside the golden marble lobby of the Grand Arcadia Hotel, a palace of wealth and whispers. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen rain, and the scent of imported lilies drifted through the air. Guests in designer suits and glittering gowns floated past her like another species entirely. Evelyn tightened her apron and pushed her cleaning cart through the corridor, eyes lowered, heart steady. She had done this 1,000 times, polishing what she could never own, cleaning spaces she could never afford to stay in. As she bent to scrub the gold-framed mirror in the hallway, 2 women in silk robes passed by laughing. "Can you imagine cleaning toilets for a living?" one of them said, loud enough for Evelyn to hear. "Some people are just born unlucky," the other replied. Evelyn's hand froze mid-swipe. Her reflection in the mirror looked back at her. Tired eyes, calloused hands, a faint smudge of detergent on her cheek. But instead of anger, she smiled faintly. "Luck has nothing to do with it," she murmured. "Some of us just fight longer." Hours passed. Room after room, floor after floor. The scent of bleach clung to her hands. Her shoulders ached. She paused only to sip water from an old bottle and glance at her phone. A new text from the hospital read, "Caleb's test results show increased strain. Surgery may be needed soon." Her chest tightened. The surgery cost nearly $50,000, money she didn't have, money she was killing herself trying to save. She exhaled slowly and slipped the phone back into her pocket. There was no time to cry, no time to feel weak. At 3 p.m., her supervisor, Mrs. Patel, a kind Indian woman with sharp eyes, approached. "Evelyn, you've been working double shifts again, haven't you?" "Just trying to help cover the schedule," Evelyn replied softly. "You need rest," Mrs. Patel sighed. "You're human, not a machine." Evelyn smiled faintly. "Machines don't have brothers to save." Mrs. Patel didn't argue. She only placed a gentle hand on Evelyn's shoulder. "You have a good heart, child. Don't let this world harden it." By 7 p.m., the hotel was quiet again. Only the sound of distant footsteps and elevator chimes filled the air. Evelyn's last task of the day was to clean Presidential Suite 501, the most luxurious room in the entire building. It was reserved for Jack Davis, the billionaire owner of the Arcadia chain, a man whispered about for his temper and fortune. He was due to arrive later that night. When Evelyn opened the door to the suite, she couldn't help but pause in awe. The place was a palace within a palace, gold-trimmed curtains, marble floors, a view of the city that stretched for miles. A grand piano sat by the window, silent under the glow of the chandelier. She went to work quietly, dusting, mopping, and aligning everything with precision. When she finished, she turned to leave, but her legs refused to move. They trembled with exhaustion. Her eyes drifted to the enormous bed, snow-white sheets, perfectly made. "Just a minute," she whispered to herself. "Just a minute to rest my eyes." She placed her cleaning cloth down, sat on the edge of the bed, then leaned back slightly. The softness enveloped her like a sigh she'd been holding all day. She stared at the ceiling, then at the city lights flickering beyond the window. "One day," she murmured, "I'll make it out of this." And before she knew it, her eyelids fluttered shut. At 9 p.m., the elevator doors slid open on the top floor. Jack Davis stepped out, followed by his assistant Thomas Reed. Jack was the kind of man people noticed instantly. Tall, sharp-suited, his presence as commanding as the skyline outside. He was in his late 30s, with piercing blue eyes that saw everything and trusted nothing. "Long flight?" Thomas asked quietly. "Too long," Jack muttered. "I just want to rest." The door to Suite 501 opened with a soft click. Jack walked in, loosening his tie, then froze. There, on his bed, lay a young woman in a janitor's uniform, fast asleep. His face hardened instantly. What the hell is this? Thomas stepped back, startled. Sir, I'll call security. Jack raised a hand to stop him. His voice was low, dangerous. Not yet. He walked closer, every step echoing off the marble floor. He could see the weariness on her face, the faint smudge of dust on her cheek, the way she clutched her cleaning cloth even in her sleep, like it was part of her. She stirred slightly, murmuring, Caleb, hold on a little longer. Jack blinked. Who was Caleb? He reached out and gently tapped her shoulder. Evelyn jolted awake, panic flooding her eyes the moment she saw him. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean, I was just sleeping, Jack finished coldly. In my bed. She shot up instantly, trembling. Please, I didn't mean to. I've been working since morning and I must have dozed off. Please don't fire me, sir. I need this job. Please. Jack crossed his arms, studying her like a riddle he didn't care to solve. Do you have any idea who I am? Yes, sir, she whispered. You're Mr. Jack Davis, the owner. And yet, he said slowly, you thought it was acceptable to use my bed as a resting spot? Evelyn's throat tightened. Her eyes glistened. No, sir. I didn't think. I just got tired. Something in her voice made him pause. It wasn't defiance, it was truth. Pure, unpolished truth. Thomas looked between them, uneasy. Sir, I can handle this. Should I call HR? Jack didn't answer. His gaze stayed on Evelyn, her shaking hands, her bowed head. What's your name? He asked finally. Evelyn, sir. Evelyn Allen. He said nothing for a long moment. The air between them thickened, tension mixed with something else he couldn't name. Finally, he turned away. Get out, he said quietly. Her heart dropped. Sir, please. I said get out, he repeated, voice sharp. But not a word to anyone. We'll deal with this tomorrow. Evelyn grabbed her things and hurried toward the door, tears threatening to spill. Jack stood still, watching her disappear down the hall. Something about that name, Evelyn, stirred a memory deep in him. The way she said Caleb, the way she looked utterly broken yet still polite, it all gnawed at him. Thomas spoke carefully. She's lucky you didn't fire her on the spot, sir. Jack's eyes stayed fixed on the door. I don't know why I didn't. Outside, Evelyn pressed her back against the corridor wall, chest heaving. Her job, her brother, everything she'd been working for, about to crumble because of one moment of weakness. She closed her eyes and whispered a silent prayer. God, please not now. Inside the suite, Jack looked at the faint indentation on the bed where she had slept. He exhaled deeply, loosening his tie again. Get some rest, sir? Thomas asked. Jack nodded absent-mindedly, still staring at that spot. Yeah, he muttered. But something tells me I won't be sleeping much tonight. The next morning at the Grand Arcadia Hotel was bright and bustling. Sunlight streaming through glass walls, guests sipping lattes, the lobby filled with polished shoes and polished smiles. But Evelyn Allen wasn't smiling. She stood in the janitor's locker room, hands trembling as she buttoned her uniform. Her mind replayed the night before like a nightmare that refused to fade. The billionaire's icy stare, his sharp voice, the humiliation burning in her chest. She hadn't slept. Every tick of the clock felt like a countdown to disaster. By the time she stepped into the hallway, she had already accepted her fate. She was going to be fired. Maybe today. Maybe in the next 10 minutes. Still, she worked. She mopped. She dusted. She moved like a ghost through the gleaming corridors, afraid to be seen, yet too proud to run. At 10:15 a.m., Mrs. Patel approached her with a clipboard and an unreadable expression. Evelyn, Mr. Davis wants to see you in his office. Right now. The words hit her like a weight. He wants to see me? Evelyn stammered. Yes. And Evelyn. Mrs. Patel hesitated. Whatever happens, keep your head high. You're one of the best workers here. Evelyn swallowed hard. Thank you, ma'am. She made her way to the top floor, the executive level, where the air even smelled different. The elevator doors opened to reveal walls lined with art worth more than her apartment. She walked down the long corridor to Office 501A, Jack Davis's personal suite. When she reached the door, she stopped and breathed deeply. Then she knocked. "Come in," a deep voice called. Jack Davis sat behind a massive glass desk, sleeves rolled up, eyes cold and calculating. Papers were neatly stacked before him. Thomas Reed stood nearby, silent, as if sensing the storm that might erupt any moment. Evelyn stepped in, her hands clasped in front of her. "Good morning, sir." Jack didn't look up right away. He flipped a page, signed something, then finally raised his eyes to her. "Miss Allen," he said slowly, "do you always fall asleep in guests' rooms, or was last night a special occasion?" Her voice trembled. "No, sir. I'm deeply sorry. It was never my intention to." "To what?" he cut in sharply. "Violate hotel policy? Disrespect privacy? Risk your job?" Each word sliced like glass. Evelyn felt her throat tighten. "I was exhausted, sir. I've been working back-to-back shifts for weeks. I sat down for just a second, and I must have fallen asleep." Jack leaned back in his chair, studying her. "And why would anyone work that much? The pay here isn't worth dying for." Evelyn hesitated, then decided to tell the truth. "My little brother's sick, sir. He needs surgery soon, and I'm trying to save for it. I can't afford to lose this job." Something flickered in Jack's eyes, a brief, human crack in the billionaire armor, but it vanished as quickly as it came. "You expect me to believe that story?" he asked quietly. Evelyn looked straight at him for the first time. Her eyes shimmered but didn't waver. "You don't have to believe it, sir. It's just the truth." The room went silent. Thomas shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Jack tapped his pen against the desk. "You're supposed to be fired," he said at last. "Any other employee would be." Evelyn's heart sank. But then his voice softened, almost imperceptibly. "Yet, something tells me you're not like the others." She blinked, uncertain what that meant. "You'll continue working here," he said finally, "but not as part of the cleaning staff." Her head shot up. "Sir, starting today, you're assigned as my personal housekeeper. You'll handle my suite, my schedule, my quarters. Thomas will brief you on details." She stood frozen. "Sir, I don't understand." "I thought you made a mistake," Jack interrupted. "But you were honest about it. I value honesty. Don't make me regret this decision." Evelyn nodded quickly. "Thank you, sir. I promise I won't." "You can go," he said, returning to his papers. As she left the office, Thomas gave her a small nod, part sympathy, part warning. When the door closed, Jack exhaled deeply, his gaze drifting to the city outside. Thomas spoke quietly. "You surprised me, sir." Jack didn't look up. "I surprised myself." The next few days were unlike anything Evelyn had known. Her new duties included maintaining Jack's private penthouse suite, a space most employees were forbidden to enter. She prepared his breakfast tray, arranged his documents, and made sure his surroundings stayed immaculate. Jack, meanwhile, kept his usual distance, cold, efficient, precise. Yet beneath that steel exterior, something inside him was shifting. He watched her sometimes, discreetly, as she worked quietly, her focus unwavering. She hummed softly while cleaning, a habit she wasn't even aware of. It reminded him of someone he hadn't thought about in a long time. One evening, Jack stood by the window, glass of scotch in hand. The city lights flickered like stars below. He could hear Evelyn in the next room, folding linens, humming a slow, tender tune. For a moment he closed his eyes and saw his late wife, Grace, sitting by the piano, humming the exact same melody. "You okay, Jack?" Thomas asked from behind him. Jack blinked, coming back to the present. "Yeah, just thought I heard something." Thomas hesitated. "You've been quiet lately. Everything all right?" Jack didn't answer. He just stared at the reflection of Evelyn in the glass, small, humble, unaware of the effect she was having. "She's different," Jack murmured. "Doesn't ask for anything. Just works. Maybe she reminds you of what kindness looks like," Thomas said softly. Jack didn't respond. He just turned back to his drink. Later that week, Evelyn entered his office to drop off freshly ironed shirts. She hesitated when she saw him sitting alone, looking unusually tired. "Sir," she said gently, "you haven't eaten all day." He glanced up, slightly surprised by her tone. "I'm not hungry." "You say that every day," she replied before realizing her words might sound too bold. "Sorry, sir. I just thought you might need something." Jack studied her face. No agenda, no pretense, just concern. You're not afraid to speak your mind, are you? Only when it matters, she said. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his lips, the first in years. Fine. Coffee black, he said. She nodded and left, her footsteps fading down the hall. Jack sat back, rubbing his temples, wondering why his heart felt lighter than it had in months. That night, as Evelyn wiped the glass doors of the penthouse balcony, her phone buzzed. She answered quickly, whispering, "Hello. It was the hospital. Miss Allen, I'm afraid your brother's condition has worsened. We'll need to schedule surgery soon. The cost will be around $50,000. Evelyn's knees weakened. She pressed a hand to her mouth, trying not to cry. $50,000, she whispered. I can't. We'll do what we can, the nurse said gently. But we'll need confirmation within a week. When the call ended, Evelyn sank onto the floor, tears silently streaking down her face. She buried her face in her hands, whispering, "God, please help me. I can't lose him." She didn't realize Jack had stepped out of his study and was standing a few feet away, watching her through the reflection in the glass. He didn't move, didn't say a word, but his jaw tightened, his expression changing from curiosity to something deeper, something almost painful. Later that night, Thomas entered Jack's office to find him staring at his computer screen, the glow reflecting off his face. "Still working, sir?" Jack didn't answer immediately. He was looking at an email, Evelyn's employee file, which he had quietly requested from HR. No complaints. No lateness. No disciplinary actions. Every performance review marked excellent. Attached at the bottom was a note from Mrs. Patel. "Evelyn Allen is one of our hardest workers. She never asks for anything. Only concern is her exhaustion." Jack closed the file and leaned back, exhaling slowly. Thomas raised an eyebrow. "Everything all right?" Jack's eyes flickered with an emotion Thomas hadn't seen in a long time. Empathy. "Get me the number of St. Mary's Hospital," Jack said quietly. "Why?" "Because," Jack murmured, "some debts aren't meant to be ignored." That night, Evelyn cried herself to sleep, clutching her phone and praying for a miracle. Unbeknownst to her, that miracle was already being set in motion by the very man who once almost destroyed her life. The morning light broke through New York's skyline like molten gold. Inside her small Brooklyn apartment, Evelyn Allen stirred awake to the sound of her phone buzzing relentlessly on the nightstand. She rubbed her tired eyes, grabbed it, and pressed it to her ear. "Hello," a cheerful voice answered. "Miss Allen? This is Nurse Becca from St. Mary's. I have good news. Caleb's surgery has been approved and scheduled for tomorrow." Evelyn sat up straight. "Approved? But I haven't paid yet." "The balance has been cleared, ma'am," the nurse replied. "Paid in full. Anonymous donor." For a long, breathless moment, Evelyn couldn't speak. Her heart thudded wildly as she stared at the ceiling. "Are you sure? There must be some mistake." "No mistake, Miss Allen," Becca said warmly. "Your brother's surgery is covered. Everything's taken care of." When the call ended, Evelyn just sat there in stunned silence. Tears welled up in her eyes, not of joy yet, but of disbelief. She had prayed for a miracle, and somehow it came. But who could have done this? By noon, Evelyn was standing outside Jack Davis's office, her hands trembling. She had spent hours thinking it through. Who else could afford such an amount? Who even knew about Caleb's condition? Only one man did. When she entered the office, Jack was standing by the window, looking out over Manhattan. Thomas was there too, sorting through folders, but quietly slipped out when he saw her face. "Mr. Davis," she said firmly, stepping forward. Jack turned, his expression calm but guarded. "Miss Allen, you're supposed to be off today." "I know," she said. "I came to ask you something." "Go on." Her voice shook, but she didn't back down. "Did you pay for my brother's surgery?" For a moment, silence filled the room, heavy, deafening. Jack didn't answer immediately. He turned back to the window, the city reflected in his cold blue eyes. "Does it matter who paid?" he asked finally. "It matters to me," she said, her voice breaking. "Because I need to know why." Jack sighed and set his glass down. "Because I could. Because you needed it." Evelyn stared at him, hurt flaring in her chest. "So that's it? Just a billionaire's good deed of the week." He turned sharply. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Make me the villain for caring." Her breath caught. His tone wasn't angry, it was raw. "I don't need pity, Mr. Davis," she said quietly. "You don't know what it's like to feel helpless, to watch someone you love fight for their life while you scrub floors to keep them alive." Jack stepped closer. His gaze softened, something vulnerable flickering behind his eyes. "You're wrong, Evelyn." "I do know." She blinked. "What do you mean?" Jack walked past his desk and picked up a framed photo, his late wife, Grace. She was sick. Very sick. I had all the money in the world, and I still couldn't save her. By the time I stopped chasing profit and started chasing a cure, it was too late. His voice cracked slightly, the calm, ruthless billionaire unraveling before her eyes. "So when I heard you crying that night, when you said your brother's name, I heard myself. The man who would have given anything for one more chance." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. "You didn't do this out of pity," she whispered. "No," he said softly. "I did it because no one should have to lose someone they love, just because they were born on the wrong side of the city." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the city outside, sirens, horns, life moving on while theirs seemed to stand still. Then Evelyn took a shaky breath. "You didn't have to help me. But you did. And I don't know how to thank you." "You don't owe me anything," he said. "Just take care of your brother. That's enough." She smiled faintly through tears. "I will." The next evening, Caleb's surgery was a success. Evelyn spent the night by his hospital bed, holding his hand while he slept peacefully for the first time in months. When she returned to work a few days later, she found an envelope on her cleaning cart. Inside was a handwritten note. "Dinner. Rooftop. 7 p.m., JD." Her heart raced. That evening, she climbed the stairs to the hotel's rooftop terrace, a hidden garden of lights, flowers, and soft jazz playing in the background. The city glowed beneath them like a sea of stars. Jack was there, standing near the railing, dressed simply in a black shirt and slacks, no suit, no armor. Just a man. "You came," he said, smiling faintly. "I almost didn't," she admitted. "Didn't know if it was appropriate." "You've earned one evening that's not about scrubbing floors," he said gently. "Sit with me." They sat at a small table set for two. The dinner was simple, steak, salad, and lemonade. No champagne, no extravagance. Just peace. Evelyn told him about Caleb, how the doctors said he'd make a full recovery. Jack listened quietly, genuinely. "He's brave," Jack said. "He had to be," Evelyn replied softly. "He's got a stubborn sister." Jack chuckled. The first genuine laugh she'd ever heard from him. "I can believe that." The tension between them melted into something lighter, warm, human, unspoken. Then Caleb appeared, walking toward them with a nurse escorting him. He'd insisted on visiting his sister's fancy job. When he saw Jack, his eyes widened. "You're the Jack Davis?" he asked, awe in his voice. "That's what they tell me," Jack said, smiling. Caleb grinned. "My sister says you're kind of scary." Evelyn gasped. "Caleb." Jack laughed heartily, a deep, genuine sound that startled even himself. "Well, your sister isn't entirely wrong," he teased. Caleb tilted his head. "You helped me, didn't you?" Jack glanced at Evelyn, then knelt beside the boy. "Let's just say, I believe in people who don't give up." Caleb smiled wide. "Then you're my friend." Jack nodded, touched. "I'd like that." A week later, Evelyn arrived at work as usual, only to find a sealed folder on her locker. Inside was a letter printed on Grand Arcadia letterhead. It read, "Congratulations, Evelyn Allen. You have been awarded a full scholarship to the New York College of Nursing, courtesy of the Jack Davis Foundation." Her knees nearly gave out. She reread the words again and again, unable to process them. When she finally gathered the courage, she rushed to Jack's office. But he wasn't there. Thomas stood by the desk, holding a travel itinerary. "He's leaving for London tonight," Thomas said. "Business expansion." Evelyn's heart dropped. "Do you know when he'll be back?" Thomas smiled knowingly. "Sooner than he thinks." She caught him just as he was about to step into the elevator, suitcase in hand, phone pressed to his ear. "Jack," she called. He turned, surprised to hear his first name come from her lips. "Evelyn." She ran up, holding the letter tightly. "You did this too, didn't you?" "The scholarship?" He smiled faintly. "You wanted to be a nurse. Consider it an investment in humanity." "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," he interrupted gently. You reminded me what purpose feels like again. Her eyes brimmed with tears. I don't know how to thank you. Then don't, he said softly. Just live the life you dreamed of. That's all the thanks I need. The elevator bell chimed. Jack stepped inside, the doors sliding slowly shut. Evelyn stood there, her heart aching with gratitude and something more, something she couldn't name. Just before the doors closed completely, Jack looked at her one last time and said, "You fell asleep in the wrong room, Evelyn, but maybe it was the right dream." The doors closed. Months later, Evelyn stood outside the hospital where Caleb was recovering, now a bright, healthy boy. She wore a crisp white uniform, nursing student. Class of 2026 embroidered neatly on the pocket. She looked up at the sky, smiling. Somewhere across the ocean, a billionaire checked his email and paused at a photo attached to a thank you message. Evelyn in her uniform, standing beside Caleb, both beaming. For the first time in years, Jack Davis felt something rare and precious. Peace. And though they were miles apart, they both knew. Their paths had changed forever the day a tired janitor fell asleep on a billionaire's bed. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to Boundless Echoes for more interesting stories. We really appreciate your support. Comment where you are watching from, so we can give you a shout out. See you in our next video.